We are live on the YouTube.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. It's Thursday, April 17th, and we are here with a lot of members of the Vermont Energy and Climate Action Network. And we're going to be hearing from a cross section of town energy committee members who are visiting the State House today. So we're going to go around the table, the committee members, and introduce ourselves, including a member who's joining us remotely today and our committee assistant. And then we always like to go around the room and have everybody who's here in the room introduce themselves quickly for the record. And then we'll turn it over to you and it's official. So I'm Rep. Kathleen James from Manchester.
Richard Bailey from Lamoille 2.
Chris Morrow, Wyndham, Windsor, Bennington. Michael Southworth, Caledonia 2.
Christopher Howland, Rutland 4.
Dara Torrey, Washington 2.
Graham Kleppner, Chittenden 13, Burlington.
And Rep. Scott Campbell is joining us remotely today, and Rep. Laura Sebelius will be here in a minute, I'm sure.
Jack Agleo from Burlington.
Kevin Thorley, Chair of the Williston Energy Committee.
I'm Deirdre Holmes from Sherlock.
Jack Locker, Committee Assistant.
Linda Gray from Norwich.
Roland Davis, Shelburne.
Alice White, Middlebury.
Spence Putnam, Weybridge.
Johanna Miller, Vermont Natural Resources Council. And Becky Wade from Berry City.
All right. For the record, we have until 11 o'clock. We probably will want to take a quick break. So why don't let's have a hard stop if we're not done yet at 10:55, because we're going to need to start our 11 o'clock testimony right on time. All right. For the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Steve Meyer. I live in Middlebury, and I'm a member of the Middlebury Energy Committee, and I also chair the board of the Climate Economy Action Center, which I'll also be talking briefly about. Our group plan is that we have, I think, 5 or 6 folks who are ready to speak with you each for 3 to 4 or 5 minutes, something like that.
Super.
I'll try to set the stage a little bit, and so I'll just get going. First, before I go too far, I'd just like to thank you for the work that the legislature has done in recent years around climate and energy. It's very important for the state, for the world, and for the work that we do at the local level. So thank you for that. And I know, and thank you this year in particular for holding the line as much as you can on those important pieces of legislation. So we wanted to start there, but we also want to mostly spend our time today talking about local initiatives, what we do at the local level, and tell our stories about what's working for us and what's hard for us to do. And in that vein, I want to talk a little bit about Addison County and the work that we're doing there. And then talk about, then others, I think, will talk about how it might, that kind of activity and others are working in other towns. So we have, both the Energy Committee and Climate Economy Action Center, I'll probably default and say CEAC, that's our acronym, have been working on energy and climate issues for several years now. And over the last year have really joined forces. Both Middlebury and many of the about 13 other towns in Addison County have joined together with CEAC to launch and now operate a program called the Energy Navigators Program. Energy Navigators connects residents with energy coaching services to help make homes more efficient, more comfortable, more resilient, and more affordable while reducing greenhouse gases. During our first year, which we're still in process, so it's still a relatively new program in startup mode, but over 50% of our navigations were for low and moderate income households, a goal that we intend to continue over time. And so far, we've completed about between 60 and 70 of these home navigations with our relatively small staff of 2, counting an AmeriCorps member. So our challenge that we took on began with understanding a little better about what we needed to do locally in order to implement the goals of the state's climate action plan. And if you both through our own analysis and prorating down from some of the statements that have come out of the Climate Council and the Energy Action Network, just in Addison County, we were able to figure out with just some simple arithmetic that in order to meet climate goals, the state's climate goals, our contribution in Addison County would need to be something on the order of about 800 weatherizations, 800 households doing weatherizations each year, and about 1,000 heat pump installations just in Addison County each year in order to meet the 2030 and then goals beyond that. That's a big challenge, and one that our small energy committees and SEAC together even can't manage, but we accept that challenge, and we're doing what we can to work toward those goals. Let's see. I did bring. I'm just going to take a couple more minutes. I will pass out these. This is a little brochure about energy navigators.
I was going to ask how you guys get the word out about your energy navigation program. So it looks like you've got brochures. And how are you finding in particular low and moderate income folks to help?
Well, we thought so far it's been. Did you get enough?
Oh, one more.
So far, it's actually come fairly naturally to us in terms of the people that have connected with the programs, and a typical situation so far are retired folks who own their home but are on limited income. They meet the qualifications, and they're really looking to try to be. I think primary motivations are cost and comfort, but then also our third people, I think if you ask them, will talk about energy efficiency or savings or climate goals. That's where we have a website. We have, we're doing all the traditional sort of outreach things, but we're also trying to focus. I mentioned the 13 towns. We have intensive interactions with those towns, with their energy committees, if they have one, with other volunteers that are there. We set up community meetings. We think it's important to have local connector people, volunteers, or others within the community that people in the community know and trust. That sort of local independent component is really important, both in getting the word out generally, but also telling their own stories, perhaps about how a navigation or coaching session worked with them. And it always works when we can get it going. Sometimes it's hard to find those connections at the beginning, but we just sort of keep at it.
Okay. I think Rick Kleppner's hand was up first.
Yes, tier navigators also connect low and moderate income households with possible sources of financial support for weatherization and electrification.
Yes, absolutely. We partnered with other organizations that do pieces of this work. Efficiency Vermont, of course, Heat Squad, which is a program in more in Western Vermont, although I think they're now in the Kingdom also, and with CVOEL, our agency there.
That was my question. If you guys, that was my question. If you guys were connected with your community action agency.
Yes, we are. And working on the sort of warm handoffs, all those organizations specialize in parts of the puzzle. And we see the role of the navigator to be the local trusted person, advocate, to help people. It's complicated.
Yeah.
To know, not only to know what's out there in terms of the particular rebates and incentives, when do they apply, how do they apply, what should we do first, second, what's most, all of those things end up being a complicated recipe that paralyzes people fairly. We get that a lot. And so this sort of, we meet in their homes, generally speaking, if that's okay with them. And either through our own or through other local volunteers, we try to set up this relationship. And another piece of what we think will be our special sauce is that we're committed to the idea of staying in touch with these folks over time. So it's not, we don't come, give you a report and say good luck. We do those first two things, but then we'll check back with them 3 months, 6 months, a year later, saying, how did it going? What can we do now? What's your next step? And how can we help you with that? We have a finance guide in particular. It's a challenge to keep it updated, but we're doing our best. It's a complicated spreadsheet of different incentive programs have different qualification standards. So it's a bit of a maze.
Okay. Rep. Sibilia?
Yeah, thanks for your testimony. I am such a fan of the work that you all do. It's so incredibly important. Thank you very much for all of you for doing it. One of the things that I have been concerned about with the climate action plan is making sure that we're really ground truthing that with reality as far out into Vermont as we can get. And so making sure that we're getting to the end of the road to Vermonters, that they are connected to that plan, that they are able to weigh in on that plan. And, taken to task a bit some of the counselors and the Agency of Natural Resources for not going as far as I would like into rural communities. Can you talk, do you all connect on the climate action plan? Do you connect, folks in your community to that? And if you don't, can we talk about that?
I would say when we get a call and when we go out to houses, our primary focus is, okay, who are you? What's your interest here? Why did you call us? Let's look at your home together, and can we start to figure out a plan for how you would like to take action? I would say that we wouldn't lead with conversation around the climate action plan at the statewide level.
No.
But we do bring the goal of a number of the important goals of the plan into our conversations around electrification and efficiency, and the kind of goals that I mentioned at the beginning, that we need to help as many people as we can to get through the maze of programs and incentives and such in order to help with this transition that's necessary to meet the climate action plan goals. So the framework that the plan provides is extremely important to our work, but we don't always talk about it.
Well, and I would say that, we know that we're not going fast enough. We know that climate change is accelerating and that the impacts will be felt first and most directly by poor and rural folks. And so, I'm very interested in the climate action plan. We're really lucky to have a lot of, good folks connected to very talented technical experts at the state level working on that. But it can never be static.
Yeah.
We have to be constant. It has to be dynamic. And so, to the extent that we have the ability, Joey, working with you folks are so close, so much closer, to the ground and these conversations on the ground. I think it would be important to see if there are any ways that we can utilize you additionally to make sure that we are staying connected and evolving that. We have another person who wants to.
I wonder if I could just have a quick comment about the Energy Navigator program, because when we work
Just say your name again.
I'm Alice White from Middlebury, but I'm training to be an Energy Navigator. And I participated in a local meeting in Leicester where we gathered stakeholders in Leicester and asked them, how do you get the word out in your very small town? And they said the schools. And so we participated, that's the one place where we can be sure no one's reading the Addy Indy, no one's, there's not a gathering place in that town. There's no really town hall, but schools are the place of the connection. So I think through Energy Navigator, we're actually reaching a little farther into some of these towns and understanding how to communicate.
I think I should hand it off soon.
I was just gonna say, do we have other,
And so let me
we have a
segue.
lineup, I know.
Let me segue a little bit by saying two things. One is that energy navigators, we're getting inquiries from other towns outside of Addison County who's recently decided to work and do this work in Brandon, which is close to us, but not in Addison County. And also from a couple of the towns that you'll hear from here soon. It is a capacity problem. We're a small, as I mentioned before, we're a small nonprofit. And so we're welcoming the struggle, the productive struggle is trying to figure out how we can scale this beyond our communities just in Addison County. And I think Joey wanted me to make sure that I said that Middlebury is one of about 130 towns in Vermont that have energy committees. So that's the kind of about half, or a little more than half of our communities are working on these issues locally. I
Great.
think I'll hand off to Roland.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you. I want to echo Steve, thank you for what you do. It gives us the foundation to do what we can do. So thanks for that. So I'm Roland Davis. I'm the chair of the Shelburne Climate and Energy Committee. And I'm going to be brief to follow on Steve's because as you said, there's a pebble in the pond. I'm trying to take the ripples and make them bigger. So it's a story about networking and in particular the power here in Vermont of knowing your neighbors and what they're doing as well. Supported particularly by VCAN, but also pretty much any of the other statewide organizations. So we had CAC come to present to our Shelburne committee. After their presentation, I felt, well, this should be not just here in Shelburne, it should be everywhere in Vermont. We should try and find a way to grow it. From that, I started to reach out to some of our neighboring communities around Shelburne, people on the energy committees there. And we kept reaching out. We now have sort of an ad hoc planning group, I'll call it, of about 20 people, including representatives from Efficiency Vermont, Vermont Gas, soon to be GMP as well, Energy Action Network, CVOE. I think I'm forgetting some. Joey's in the group, and we are planning. How do we make what Addison County did? How do we put it in place as many other places as we can across the state? My focus, particularly southern Chittenden County and the neighboring counties, but that's just a start. So basically, it's a scaling operation. We have a half-day in-person planning meeting scheduled for May 6th in Middlebury to put some more flesh on the bones. One of the things that we are aiming for is perhaps reaching out to Rewiring America, a very well-known national organization that is focused on many of these same things. And we have good early indications, but we want to invite them, if they're willing, to be an active partner in this operation of scaling up this operation. So that's the basic, we're in motion, I think, trying to do what we can to make it bigger. And the name we've hung on this is a Navigator Plus, planning effort right now. So that's kind of just a bit of what we're doing.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, thank you. And again, my name is Linda Gray. I think I'm our rep from East of the Greens today. And I want to echo everybody's thank you to you all for your work. Our energy committee in Norwich has been around since 2002, and I've been active since 2008. So that's getting to be a while. And so we focused on both municipal use and residential energy use. I just want to give you a feel for the kinds of stuff that we do. So we have had campaigns on residential solar since 2012. not up to speed all the way through 2024 in our tracking, but we're real close to a third of the households in town having solar. We've done campaigns on residential weatherization since 2014. We do all kinds of promotion to capture people's attention. So we do outreach at our transfer station, at the general store, on Halloween at the fire station. We do free ice cream, free LED bulbs. We've made up progress meters on the Citgo pole that's outside the general store. We've used numbered knitted panels to track our progress on weatherization. We've used numbered rings to do that for solar. We've done climate stripe yarn bombs around town. We've done displays at the library. Other projects we've done include window inserts, community builds. This year will be our 5th year. We have a Ask a Neighbor set up a roster so that people who've done this stuff that we're trying to encourage everybody to, those people can share their experience with the folks who are just starting out. We've done e-bike loan programs. We've done EV show and tell. So that's not a complete list, pretty good list. And I do want to note much of this work has been in collaboration with other towns in the Upper Valley. So Solarize and Weatherize, the e-bike loans for sure, all the window inserts. And I want to emphasize the network part of BCAN is very real. We readily copy each other's ideas and successes. We promote everybody's programs. We organize multi-town events. Norwich is part of a 6-town group, and it's soon to be 7, that shares an energy coordinator staff position. So this position is housed at the Regional Planning Commission. That's Two Rivers. The towns are Norwich, Bradford, Stratford, Thetford, Sharon, Woodstock, and soon it will be Fairleigh. And we put in prorated funds, and then we get prorated hours back, and the RPC covers overhead. So I want to say we're trying and doing everything we can think of, and it works, but just not fast enough. My observation is that the hurdles for people are time and money. The solutions, as Steve mentioned, they're complex enough that people need guidance to avoid mistakes. Home energy action is not everybody's top priority. You know, people have very busy lives, and the structures have to be in place consistently to channel people to the right tested solutions. And I think it's important to recognize this very fundamental fact. Once you make an investment in energy efficiency and clean energy, you save money and you stabilize expenses. And this simply because you are cutting ongoing fuel costs. And it's true at every level, individual households, businesses, governments. On the time issue, I am extremely supportive of energy coaches or navigators, and I'm really pleased that the group in Addison County has gotten going. I've tried to reassure Steve that we'll be patient as they, get their feet on the ground and organize everything, but everybody in the state would like to do that. I'm also really pleased. I know the Climate Council in its draft priority actions, energy navigators is one of those points in there. It deserves to be there. Another point I want to make is that we learned in our Solarize campaigns, we have done that pretty much every year, and it's necessary to do this repeated pitches to people, because year 1 they might not somehow be ready. They start to think it over, but if you keep talking about it, by year 3 they're ready to take action. So you have to have somebody who's going to keep reminding people about the need to take action, and you have to have consistent policy that the person can access when they're ready to take action.
Sabili? Sorry.
When you're done.
Oh, okay. Okay.
All right. And then on the money issue, I really like to see innovative financing. I'm not a finance person, so I can't describe exactly what that would be. But I'm also pleased that Climate Council has included financing in their draft priority action. So I can tell you, I think it's very important. I feel the money for the investment exists in our society and economy. It's there. We've just got to harness it and direct it to community energy solutions that we need. And I think that's the whole point of the Climate Super Fund, to enable us to make investments that we need in resilience and adaptation. And I'd like to say to you guys as policymakers, your job is to keep your eye on both the near and long-term problems for your constituents and develop practical, workable, necessary policies that will maybe head off the problems or at least make them manageable. You rightly worry about affordability for Vermonters, but you've also got to keep the long-term forecast in mind. So here's one from a year ago from the Potsdam Institute in Germany. Economies across the world are committed to an average income loss of 19% by 2049 due to past emissions. So 19% by 2049 due to emissions that have already been emitted. So your job, I think, is to help Vermonters cope with that, looking ahead. So I want to just circle back to the stuff we've been doing and how they're connected to policy things. So it's a scaffolding of policy. So all the residential solar been supported by net metering policies and the whole structure of the renewable energy standard, and weatherization by the very existence of Efficiency Vermont, the incentives that are funded by the energy efficiency charge on all of our bills, the residential building energy code, which, did you know, is mandatory, but compliance is maybe at 50%. So this is a structure that definitely needs to be strengthened. Our group of committees in the Upper Valley, we have some ideas about that, so feel free to ask me about that. EVs have been supported by various incentives. Some of them have gone away. Also e-bikes. And I think all of these policies, all of these particular targeted ones are supported by the general framework of the Global Warming Solutions Act. And I think the Climate Council and its Climate Action Plan, we end up looking to those plans for guidance for us in our towns. And I just want to end by saying thank you all for keeping all these different policy supports in place.
Sibilia?
Yeah, I want to thank you and all of the folks in your area who have coordinated that shared energy planner, and I cannot remember his name. I don't know if it's the same person.
Well, the current staff person is Harry Falconer.
It's not the same.
It had been, it started out with a fellow named Jeff Martin.
Yeah, it was Jeff.
Yeah,
Martin.
right.
So Jeff was actually, you all are ahead of a lot of other places. I think that's a great model for communities. Jeff was instrumental in helping us work through, as well as the energy committees and the RPCs, the Municipal Energy Resilience Project, which was incredibly unique opportunity. I know that there were a lot of bumps, but I count that as a massive success and opportunity for a lot of communities that are very far behind you. So thank you for your work and being leaders and that's helping others.
On the MERC program, if I might add just one little thing, which I think, so the implementation grants have been given out. There are a lot of towns that didn't get them, and they have projects. And so part of the act included a loan program, but I don't believe that is set up and functioning. And I would encourage you all to get that going, because like low cost loans for towns that aren't going to get free money is very important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I am Deirdre Holmes. I'm chair of the previously Sherlock Energy Committee. We've just renamed ourselves the Sherlock Energy and Climate Action Committee, which fits with the VCAN, but also for all of our members, it's a conversation we've been having for a few years. It just felt more aligned to larger climate issues. So thank you. And I wanted to particularly mention that several years ago, when we were simply the Energy Committee, we created the energy plan as part of our town plan, which which was approved by over 80% of the voters. And we looked at the Global Solutions Act, and we looked at what was happening, the targets that were set, the language that was being used, the rationale from the state level in order to create our town level plan. And that seemed only logical because obviously the climate is everywhere, and our intentions and our language and our rationale should all line up at various scales. And I think that was very helpful for us in explaining what we were doing to the townspeople and to the voters. And as I said, it passed very easily with very strong support. And since then, we've always been looking back on it. So every time when we're making our work plan, we look back at the implementation table of our town plan. It makes it very easy to determine our priorities and to explain to the select board and the planning commission why we're doing this. We have done some weatherization work, and just a quick comment in terms of how to reach people. I was able to get a climate catalyst grant to hire somebody from our community who described herself as a member of the low income community. And we were able to hire her to staff our weatherization project. And that made an enormous difference from the previous couple of years when we were, as an energy committee, we're trying to do it. She made connections, friendships, she told me, but also really was able to move that project along. We didn't have the funding to keep her on, but even that 1 year made an enormous difference. And I think we reached a lot of people and developed a lot, just more comfort and trust with what we were doing. We've also been working on a residential solar campaign, thanks to Linda and the work that Linda's been doing in Norwich. We basically just copied Solarize Norwich and have been running Solarize Charlotte for several years. And in the process have been able to work with various companies. So we vet various installers, and this past year we had 4 installers working with our campaign, and all of them offered between 3 and up to 10% discounts for any household who signed up to have solar installed. And exactly as you said, Linda, just repeating that message, being able to run campaigns year after year makes an enormous difference. And then I wanted to mention what we've been able to do on the municipal level. So we've built a town garage, our first town garage. We used to rent a privately owned one, and unfortunately there was a fire. So we needed to build our own first town garage. And the Energy Committee was able to just join that planning process from the very beginning and help with all sorts of design decisions, but significantly was able to build the building so that it was really sited well for solar and have solar installed on the roof. That was financed. We were able to work with the Vermont Bond Bank, and they refer to it as their pilot project was funding that municipal solar array on the town garage with their new 2% green loan. So that really made it possible, because that loan, in combination with the direct pay that's available to municipalities from the federal government, from the IRA, that all of a sudden completely changed the funding landscape. And going back a little bit, the Energy Committee, we have presented proposals to the town at least twice, maybe even 3 times previously for a town solar project. And the select board always voted it down because the select board certainly at the time felt very strongly that they wanted a solar system to be town owned. They didn't want to work with an investor, right, to fund it that way. They also didn't want it off-site and a net metering arrangement. They really wanted it in Charlotte and town owned. So the combination of these 2 funding opportunities made that possible. On Earth Day, it was a very nice day for that project to be commissioned. It was commissioned. So in a week or 2, not even next week, we will be 1 year of this project, and we've been tracking the generation and the usage very carefully. And it looks like we will hit about 70% of the town meters will be covered by this array. And town meeting day this year was very nice. The budget conversation was opened with an announcement that we have a $17,000 savings due to the town solar projects and a large loss. So that was a very nice way to open town meeting. So we've been very excited. We also have some new members on the select board who require less convincing. And so we're moving ahead with kind of part two, wanting to build on the solar that's on the town garage right now. Again, estimating at about 70% of current demand. We'd like to, so working with the town to try to finish that gap of current demand, but also look ahead and anticipate fuel switching. Certainly for heating and cooling, we've installed only one EV charger. It's almost always full, so we'd like to do more. Maybe there's other opportunities to electrify within town properties. And so for that, we're wanting to install additional solar and then use the savings of that to fund the we still are using oil and gas, but begin to install heat pumps and move in that direction. That funding, we're having various conversations about how to fund that. But one of our energy committee members, he feels quite certain, particularly in sort of the larger federal international landscape right now, that investors, perhaps local individual investors, are going to be very interested in investing in something at a very local level, and maybe pulling funds out of other investment opportunities that previously felt secure and feel like a local town option. So that's an active conversation that we're having right now, but wanted to share that as a possible structure. And I have we made these recently for an event. This is where we are in our thinking right now for step 2 of our municipal solar project combined with fuel switching. And we needed help on this to create this project. And so we actually used our MERP mini grant to hire an energy consultant.
Great.
Who's helping us really track, all the opportunities and the funding opportunities.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any questions? Yeah. Rex Abelia?
What work have you done with your utility Jamfake?
Yes.
What work have you done with them? Have you met with them? Are they helping you? Like, how's that relationship?
Very, very good. I mean, they connected with our existing solar. So we're very, very involved there. And I actually don't know that we've met with them yet in connection with this. This is very much kind of a draft, just where we are right now, but wanted to share this. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I am just, as we are more and more trying to reduce our, our electric use and electric.
Yes.
So
yes,
at the same time,
right.
They are charged with maintaining the infrastructure for all of that. And so just making sure we're keeping those connections robust.
Yeah.
Good. Again, very dynamic.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
What's that? Are you suggesting something? I'm very.
Hi, good morning. My name is Kevin Thorley. I chair the Wilson Energy Committee. As all of my predecessors have said, thank you very much for your support and for the time today. Just to talk a little bit about what we do in Wilson. Our energy committee came about as a result of the town energy plan that we adopted in 2020. We stood the committee up formally in early 2022, so about 3 years in at this point. We have a lot of things going well, and a lot of that is based on community outreach. So we do a monthly article in our local paper, the Wilson Observer. We get great feedback from the community on those articles. They cover everything weatherization, electric vehicles. We've collaborated with some folks on no mow may, like just ways for people to be energy efficient and also environmentally friendly. We staff tables at local events. That's a great way to get out and meet people. Farmers markets specifically have been really good. I've always been impressed by the number of people that want to talk about things. They have questions about electric vehicles, heat pumps, etc. So we get a lot of good engagement with the community in that way. And we hold an annual energy fair, focused primarily on EVs in previous years, but as it's grown, we bring partners in, heat pumps, electric vehicles, solar, home weatherization. They're all topics. It's grown to be a pretty good sized affair. It's usually in the fall, September, October. And we have well, I'll get to that. We've got great support from so many places. We work closely with utilities, GMP. Vermont Gas, though, is really one that is working with us a lot. They have a heat pump program. They've attended our meetings on a number of occasions. Efficiency Vermont and Drive Electric Vermont have been incredibly supportive. They come to a lot of our events. Local Motion, others as well. And through that support, we're able to engage a little more physically with the community. We get weatherization kits from Vermont Gas and from Efficiency Vermont. Those weatherization kits, you've all seen them. You probably have received some. It's things like low flow shower heads and weather stripping and whatnot. We hand out a lot of those. We seem to have an unlimited supply coming in, and that's great because people take those when we do our tabling events. We have also engaged in policy. So we've authored most recently the energy chapter for the 2025 town plan. And recently, based on a petition from a group of residents, we've put forward to the select board a proposal or some guidelines for a clean heat standard within town. You may be aware that Burlington and South Burlington have already gone down that path. So that's something that we, at the behest of some residents, put forward. That's with the select board now. Which brings me to the thing that I want to make sure that you're all aware of, and the importance of the work that you do is, as a town on the, I'll say, trying to be on more the leading edge of those topics, we have an interesting relationship with policies that come out of Montpelier. In some cases, those policies help us when we're able to say the Global Warming Solutions Act, is taking us in this direction, and we expect a clean heat standard at some point will take us in this direction. We can kind of put our policy recommendations in that framework. It can be a challenge at the same time when people say, well, this is something Montpelier's doing. This isn't something we need to work on here at Williston. It brings up the question of delay, right? And what we're able to do is in some ways helped by the work that you're all doing, but also if there's, I'll say, limits on that work, that influences how far we can go. So for example, when we would like to, encourage our builders in town, there's a lot of growth in town. If we want to encourage builders to provide EV charging, or at least EV charging ready housing, there is aspects of that in the stretch code, right? So it's a question of, well, is that something that we as a town should be doing? Is that something that the stretch code should be, further along? So these are questions that come up, and I think anything that you all do to take more and more action in that space allows the towns to have a better chance as we try and advance things, stepwise on our side. I also did want to call out in the question of how do we engage with folks kind of across the spectrum, within Williston. One of the things we did I thought was interesting that worked well was we had a committee member who just by chance is one of the staff members at the Williston Food Shelf. And so that committee member is able to hand out the weatherization kits, information, and that was a way for us to connect with some of the lower income folks in town. And also, our staff member did a study of energy burdened households in town based on grand list data that included the age of the home and the last known fuel source of the home, and using the age of a home as a likely proxy for weatherization. And then the known fuel sources, we were able to compile a list. She sent out a survey to those folks, got a lot of good responses. And then we've used that to target engagements with Efficiency Vermont, Vermont Gas, and try and find ways to help those folks who stand to benefit the most And then finally, Williston is growing a lot. There's a lot of growth happening, a lot of new housing going in. There's a huge and obviously necessary focus on affordability in the housing. A lot of our focus in the Energy Committee has been to acknowledge the importance of affordability and also acknowledge the unaffordability of future upgrades. The best time to set people up with the infrastructure they need for electrification is when the house is built. I've electrified my home. I've added EV, replaced our gas cars with EVs. It's not cheap to retrofit. And I live in a house built in the mid-90s, which is, far easier than even homes, built before that. Anything we can do to make it easier for people to not have to then make those decisions down the line helps them move along. It's a lot easier to pick up a used EV and give it a shot if you don't also have several thousands of dollars of home infrastructure upgrades that need to be done. And so what we're trying to do is, as this growth is happening, obviously keep an eye on the affordability aspect while considering who bears the cost of not doing the work now. It's easy to look at the initial affordability. We are trying in our proposal to the select board for the heat standard, we're really trying to ask them to look 30 years down the road and who is bearing the cost for the next 30 years in that home and make sure that that is reflected in the overall cost. It's not just the maybe $1,000 up front to run the additional 240 volt lines. It's the 30 years of cost that the next homeowner is going to have. So thank you for your time and for all that you do.
Great.
That's just it.
Thank you. Did we get everybody?
Yes.
Perfect.
We had.
All right, and we have 5 minutes for questions.
We have Chuck Reese on our agenda as well.
Doctor's appointments, so I don't know.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
We saved the last for him, but
Great.
there he is.
Do we have any
Madam Ranking
questions?
Member, I see the time back to you for further questions.
I was not really having a question. There's no
Great, Rep. Torrey.
With my energy coordinator hat on. So for the first time, we're going to be doing an electrification workshop in our town hall this month, and Veep is going to do it. Have you guys worked with Veep and adults? Because I know they come into our schools, but kind of interesting how much they can do beyond children. Yeah.
I think we had them, I think Hartford did something last spring, and then we in Norwich, we had one of their presenters do a transportation related one. And in fact, yes, they kind of re-geared the presentation to adults, but I thought they were good, and I thought the guy was an excellent presenter. So
That's wonderful.
yeah, so I would encourage you to work with them.
Great.
Also shout out to window dressers as well.
Yeah.
I mean, just an amazing community experience.
If I might just add, my observation is that the reason window dressers, and I say to people, it's spread like a good virus in Vermont, is through the energy network. Because it's in Maine, it's really active in Maine, it's really active in Vermont, a little bit in New Hampshire. And in Maine, I believe that it's mostly grown through churches, church congregations, and in Vermont, it's been through energy committees.
Yeah,
So
that's when I
thanks
first heard about it with the VCAN conference.
yeah, it's like, then it's spread like wildfire.
It's amazing.
And so we're gonna do that with the energy navigators too.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a more limited question. I'm not sure who it applies to. I think you mentioned you were working with an AmeriCorps volunteer. My email blew up a little bit this morning about the loss of AmeriCorps volunteers that have been supporting Habitat for Humanity all around the state. Do you know where things stand? It sounds like they've all been let go. Do you know where things stand with your, as of?
I don't think ours has been let go, although she could well be, because she's identified as part of the work that she does with us is identified with climate and energy. So that could be, I wouldn't be surprised. We have been told, we started on the process, the AmeriCorps members generally start in September and go for about a year. So we had started the process to get another one for next year, and we were told by the state leaders of the AmeriCorps that having, we were not likely to be approved again as an energy and climate project. So that,
Big loss for
we've
the
been
habitats
discouraged.
as well. So.
Yeah.
All right, on that grim note, thank you so much for joining us. No, we're done.
You're on the agenda as well.
So I think
No.
we're good. I think
Sorry. I'm
that's
looking
okay,
at our
Joey's.
agenda.
Yeah, I've just been,
Got it.
yeah. So
My
good.
apologies.
Yeah.
Thank you all. so
Yeah, thank you so much for being
Thank you for
here.
having us.
Yeah, really appreciate your time. Let's go